Welcome to episode 4 of Optometry Views from Outside the Consulting Room. Today I'm joined by Association of Optometrists Ireland CEO Sean McCrave. And thanks as always to our sponsors, Topcon.
And a lot of people will know Sean probably as a voice at the end of the phone and from a lot of the communications that come out, and as a presence at things like the AGM and the study day and all of the events that the association runs and the road shows when we could actually go and meet people in person. Sean would have been at those as well. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Sean, your history and your background and how you ended up here at the association.
That's a trick one. I'm originally from the town, from Dundalk, and in 1979 I left for the big city of Limerick to do a degree in applied mathematics. And my very first job, the only job that anybody's ever interested in, is that I set up the Irish TAM ratings back in 1982. We moved it from UK to, and that's the job that I think most people are interested in when I talk to them. But I left that to move into the world of advertising, and I ended up being the market research manager for the Irish Times for about 12 years. And I subsequently went on then to run the Association of Compliance Officers in Ireland, and also the Institute of Advertising Practitioners in Ireland. So I have a varied background, married to the lovely Anne-Marie, and I have two wonderful children, Aoife and Ciara. Well, wonderful at times.
like all children, when you get them on a good day.
When I get one to them. And they have two dogs. I don't have two dogs. They have two dogs.
Very good. So as CEO, your role is a many-headed hydra with the long-term strategic goals of the association, as well as the issues that crop up all the time. And this year in particular has been difficult with COVID-19 and everything else that the association is dealing with. But during the whole COVID thing, there have been a couple of milestones that have been really important for the profession in terms of our recognition as a healthcare profession, which is something that we've worked on in the association for many, many years. So can you give us just your impressions of some of those milestones that we've hit this year?
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for that, Martin. Yeah, as you're aware, most people are probably not aware, we're an extremely small secretariat. There are two full-time staff members, Mary, who everybody knows is wonderful, and unfortunately, or fortunately for her, she'll be off on maternity leave for a year, so I don't know what I'm going to do next year without her, because everybody knows how wonderful she is. We also have Lily, Linda, and Kelly, who are part-time staff members, and of course, everybody will be familiar or know our optical advisor, Linda McGivney, who does a fantastic job and who's always there to answer all queries the members may have. But we also have, and I think it's important that the members realise, that we have an excellent council and executive committee who are very, very generous with their time and expertise, and they give all of that, all of that commitment, and free of charge. I mean, we're very, very fortunate. There's 16 members on the council, and they give of their time, and I think members don't realise just how much hard work and time and effort they put in. And it's all there for promoting the profession of optometry, which I think they've done. And you're right, sorry, I've went off topic there a wee bit, but it has been an extraordinary year. However, working together, I think we've demonstrated outstanding leadership from the council. As I said, they're unpaid, but they provide a wholehearted support and commitment to all of us here, and it's made the job easier. If I can track back, when I started, and I was appointed, you said 4 years ago, I was keen to change how optometrists were perceived, especially by government officials. For too long, I believed that optometrists were seen as retailers and not as healthcare professionals. And I think that came to fore this year, when at the very start of lockdown, we were in with retail. We were essential retail. We are not in there with the other healthcare professionals. And it was through a lot of hard work and basically pestering power that we actually got in the final stage, like in November, when we got recognition as a healthcare professional at last. And Martin, better than anybody else, I firmly believe it's down to, basically, as members maybe know, that in 2005, the Healthcare Professions Act was enacted. But we, as a profession, were not listed on that. We were listed in a miscellaneous act in 2014. And I firmly believe that when people go back and look at the professions, they don't see us, because we weren't in the initial 2005 one, but We were in the 2014 one, but I don't know if they go through all of the links and all further subsequent legislation. And that's perhaps how optometry of all professions falls through the crack. So I have to say this year, I mean, again, with the agreement with the councils, we were the first profession, and I don't know if anybody else has done, but we were definitely the first profession without anything to look for a reduction in fees for members, because we all knew that everybody was going through horrific times. We also asked Cora at the time for a reduction in fees. Of course, as we all know, the silence from Cora was deafening. And as I said, right from the very start, we knew there was going to be issues. So when the government set up NPHET, we started, even before the lockdown, we started to contact NPHET, the Department of Health, the HSC, the Revenue, etc., looking for support. We were looking for support on PPE equipment, but most importantly of all, we were looking for guidelines. As I said, all we got from Cora was a reference to their website, and there was nothing on that, on guidelines for us. And so we didn't know, members didn't know what to do. We are not a regulatory body, but we made the decision to put together a set of guidelines for members. And in fairness, this was a lot of hard work by the council, and we did a lot of in-depth discussions, and maybe people don't realise just the amount of time it takes, because all aspects of it had gone through. Plus, as I said, we're not a regulatory body, so we had to protect ourselves. We can't lay ourselves or the association open to be sued. So we had to be very, very careful on that. And I think, as I said at the very, very start, it's a credit to Patricia, the executive, yourself, Martin, Linda, Fiona, Derval, all members of the council and the executive team. Trina, I can name them all, but for all the hard work that they've done. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to, I think, get through this. And I think members, the feedback we got from members were excellent. I mean, they were all very, very practical guidelines. And I think that's what stood out more than anything else, that they were practical. And we tried to, when the council was going through the different scenarios, they teased them all out. So we took them, I mean, in fairness, they took them one at a time, and there was likes of Orla and Creasa and others walking through each of them almost on a line by line basis, so that we took a very practical approach, I think. And that's why we were able to do such a good set of guidelines and get them out as quickly as possible. I mean, we even shared the guidelines with the Department of Health. That's how good they were. We also shared them with other professions, I have to say, because I think we were ahead of the curve. And as I say, it's a credit to everybody involved that for such a small team, we really do punch above our weight.
And it was interesting looking at some of the feedback coming back from members that, we have a wide constituency in the association, and we had concerns from practice owners who were concerned about their staff. We had staff members who were concerned about being asked to work in what they may be considered to be unsafe fashions. We had people who were worried, should they close, should they open? And it wasn't a simple thing. And quite often it's very easy to talk about the profession of optometry, but the profession of optometry is a wide and varied church.
Oh, you're so right. I mean, and it wasn't made any easier by the fact, I think, that everybody's caught. The officials didn't know what they were doing. There was a complete, everybody talks about the lack of clarity. In fairness, everybody was thrown into the dark hole. And that's the thing. And one of the things I know we talked about. For instance, when you're dealing with the HSE, a lot of the officials weren't there. They were all working from home. So when it came, who do you contact? I mean, it's bad enough at the best of times that one of the criticisms I have with HSE, that you don't have a point of call. And I know members get this frustration as well when they have to deal with the local health office. That's the postal lottery. It differs from one health office to another. Likewise, even that within HSE, who do you contact? It's not that something that I'm particularly proud of, but we became such a nuisance that the members of NPHET told us politely to stop annoying them. That's how much we were following up, looking for guidelines and pestering them. And I know they were doing a great job at the time, but also we needed clarification, because our members, more than any others, were literally, you're in the face of patients, and patients who could have COVID. And I think people don't realize, like, it's okay for officials today, but they're not on the line. And everybody goes on about frontline workers. It's amazing how we were able to get stuff done. And you'll know, and members will know, that suddenly when the A&E department, GPs weren't referring to A&E departments, they were asking, we've been looking for ages, they're asking for optoms to triage and look after patients. This is what we've been trying to push. And fortunately, we were able to get in and see the previous Minister for Health and the current one and tell them of all the good work their members did. And in fairness, that both ministers appreciated what we had said.
Yeah. And one of the things that obviously budgets are always an issue. And one of the things we've been arguing for years with the association is to try and get the FEMPI legislation turned over. And that has been the focus, a lot of the discussion with the HSE, I know, Sean. So I know a lot of people are looking for remuneration for the work, but even to be allowed to work was a milestone in and of itself.
Oh, completely. I mean, as I said earlier, huge deal of bureaucracy. Like people always go on to me about, I know, for instance, and I know you were asking before, when we had to deal with the Department of Employment and Social Protection, it's brilliant. The system, I don't think anybody has any problems with that because it's very clear. We are very, very fortunate that there's two individuals who we go to. There's Roy and Tony and we've been able to deal with them for years. And it's great having a point of contact like that. Plus, when the Department of Social Protection, Employment and Social Protection brought out their new system, they engaged with us. We were actually there. We were testing the system before it started. We were able to point out errors. And in fairness, there's even the Tony and Roy even referred to the DP, their picture element to it because the advice she gave to them was invaluable. But it's great. Now, on the other side, then, when we're looking at the HSE, there's nobody there. I mean, the move, and there is a huge high turnover staff. It's very, very frustrating. I tell the story before. I even had an official from the HSE phone me up to ask me for the contact details of somebody within the HSE that they couldn't get in contact with people. That's how monolith an organisation it is. But one of the things we did say, and we were able to say, or we pointed out to officials, how they contacted, you mentioned FEMPI. FEMPI for us really is not an issue because the reduction in our fees were so small that the FEMPI reduction was minuscule. Yeah. Which is why when we got the restoration with the Department of Employment and Social Protection, we got more of a restoration than even the pharmacists and the dentists because our fees were such a low base. Now, we pointed out to both the previous and the current minister, and they both agree, and even we have it minuted and noted at our last meeting that our current contract is not fit for purpose, which is great. And so, as you know, it dates back to 1999, and it simply isn't, because an eye examination in 1999 bears no resemblance to an eye examination in 2020. It's as simple as that. Now, we will get around to doing a new contract, and in fact, it is one of the items that I know will be a priority for the incoming president, John Weldon, and it is something that we've done. You know, Martin, because you helped draw it up in, I think it was in 2017, we sent into the HSE an up-to-date contract for them. We even did the work for them to make their job easier. But as I said, these things, it's very frustrating because of the length of time it takes. And I'd love to be able to tell members all of what we're doing. But if you told everybody what we're doing, and then they'll say next week, well, is there any response, any update? And this is where it's frustrating. We do an awful lot, and we're doing a lot of communication, but it's just so slow. I mean, dealing with government, it's so slow. It's amazing. And everybody said it, how in the COVID, one of the only benefit is that suddenly the HSE were able to, even they're amazed by how quickly they were able to make decisions and turn around procedures.
On certain things. I mean, we've been arguing for years for things like the rollout of the Sligo scheme nationally, the children's, the pediatric schemes, the over 8s, and
correct,
kind of red eye schemes and all sorts of things that, when we talk about renegotiating the contract, there's two things that often crop up. There's the fee element, which is important to make sure that's a realistic fee, but also to have a structure that facilitates for the future rolling out of new initiatives and, new fee streams for the profession.
Correct. I mean, you're so right. I mean, what we want is for members to be able to operate to the level of their competency. And some members will go on and they'll be able to do, advanced courses. They'll be able to do, prescribing. They'll be able to do minor procedures, etc. We want, if you're trained for that, to do it, to be able to operate to the level of your competency. That's it. And
be paid for it.
And be paid for it. we also made a point,
Yeah.
obviously, because even this period, the GPs and everyone getting paid a fee for triaging over the phone. We do that. We should be paid for that. Now, we have pointed that out, but of course, we're not seen as a real priority. I keep on saying it to ministers and everybody official when we see them. The dentists, and I don't mean to be disparaging dentists, but they get to it because when you have a toothache, it pains and it hurts. Whereas, but I keep on saying, what you rather do, lose your teeth or lose your eyesight? The fact that, our eye diseases in many cases are slow, long-term procedures, painless in many cases. And therefore, it's not seen as a top priority because it's not immediate, whereas other disciplines have that. And I think it's like we know ourselves, like, the fact that we have GPs do eye tests now, and look at the equipment that, an optometrist has or any practice owner has now compared to what a GP has, I keep on saying that to people, that if you're going to see it, go to the profession to get it done, and not to somebody who may have done a small element of their general practice degree is in eye care. But that's a minor. But you're talking about professionals who spent their whole education life doing it. Yeah, speaking on that, I mean, one of the things I think, and again we point out to government is, of all professions regulated by CORU, optometry and dispensing opticians are the smallest cohort. We're the smallest group. There's less than 1,000. There's, I don't know what it is now, there's about 16,000 physiotherapists, there's social workers, everybody else is men. We're tiny. But as well as being the smallest cohort, we also have the oldest age profile of any profession out there. And this will be a problem, especially as our population ages more. There will be a huge shortage for optometrists. And we point this out, and they have to. And we've even moved in, and we work closely with the TUD, obviously. And we're pleased to have Declan and Sinead on the team. My edit that is Declan, and is it who's the lady
Sinead
on?
Ryan and Declan Hovland. Yeah, Sinead Ryan is a lecturer in TU Dublin.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure. I thought I was getting mixed up there. All right, back in. Well, we're fortunate to have Declan and Sinead from the college on our council. We've approached the HEA, Higher Education Authority, to look for increased capitation so that they can get more students in. It's something we want. We want to retain the students here as well. I mean, one of the things I'm really disappointed with is that the number of members who have ceased being in practice as a result of lockdown because of the increased cost of PPE equipment. Also, their fear that they may catch it. So we've had a number of our long-standing members who've simply said, "Look, it's too much for me now. I'm retiring," and that's a shame. That's a terrible, terrible shame for a profession. But it is something that we have to keep on pointing. We need to get new members in. We need to increase the number of people in optometry, and that's something we'll be pushing for in the future.
Yeah, and at the start of this, we were discussing kind of some of the highlights. One of the things that I thought was really interesting and sort of in a very small way, a kind of red letter day for the association was the communication over the flu vaccine with the HSE. And, I know that was something you pushed personally, Sean, the recognition as optometrists, as healthcare professionals, to get the flu vaccine and to get it free.
Yeah, it's a minor thing, but it's important. As I said, everybody knows from the dentists in your face, but dentists have always worn masks when they're doing the examination. Not necessarily our profession, and whereas it's a little thing like at last we are being recognised, and we have to keep on pushing that. We're very lucky that we did get a lot of media coverage over it, and one of our honorary secretary, in fact, appeared on RT, Mr. Barry Lawler, and we're still paying appearance fee money for him, but it was good to have Barry on there and getting out there. And there was a lot of positivity from that. Obviously, Linda appears on radio an awful lot. We've other members like Fiona has been on local radio, as has Trina, as has John Weldon in coming. I think one of the things we have that I think members don't realise is the amount of power you have. Because you will be seeing local representatives, TD, ministers in your practice. you have an ideal opportunity on a one-to-one basis. You're literally in their face saying, Minister, do you know how little I get paid for a medical card? €22 for a medical card eye examination that could take up to 45 minutes. That's just ridiculous in this day and age. I mean, it's getting to a stage where, the minimum wage is catching up on the payment we get. But you're in there, but also to tell them about the needs. I mean, the more we're always lobbying, and that's why whenever we do our surveys, I know it can be a little bit of pain, but it doesn't take long to fill out the surveys, especially the ones we do when we're going into the Dáil. You have no idea just how important that is. When we go in and we do a national PR release, nothing. But when we get in contact with the local TD, all they want to know is what's in my area, how am I compared to the national level, or how am I compared to like the Kerry TDs versus the Cork? Everything is local. And that's why it's so important that I ask members, please, to keep on filling out any surveys we do, because it is, when you're dealing with state organs and everybody, they love to have their figures. Everybody going into the minister, how much would this save me? What are the numbers? Give me the numbers. That's the number one thing they ask for. It's numbers. So I know it may be a pain that we send out so many of them, but we ask you, please keep doing it, because it's the only figures they do. Because at the end of the day, the HSE are accountants, and that's what they're looking for. Will they save us money? How much will it cost us?
And you mentioned there about local, and for us, every one of us who are actually in practice when we have people in, Ireland's a small country. It's not just the minister; it's the TD, the TD's family, his cousin, the guy he goes drinking with when he comes home, the parliamentary team, the people who go out in the hustings, the people who go and deliver leaflets. Most communities are fairly small, particularly rural communities, and regardless of your political affiliation, you'll know who's involved with various parties, and who the people, and the thing that you produced last year, Sean, which was interesting from the office, was those kind of slips to hand out around the time of the election, and kind of those information sheets. And I definitely would encourage people to have a couple of those in the practice. And if you have somebody in who is a prominent local figure or politician or relation, hand out one of those sheets. It's something, I know you've spoken about this before. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I don't think we push it enough, and it is something we are working on quietly. But we've changes to the website, but all of the resources are on the website, and there's lots of information. So I encourage you to go there. I also encourage you. We are watching this, and I know you keep on saying it. You're watching this video. This is CBD. Make sure you go onto the website, update your CBD, because it's an easy way to get it. And so please do that. And this, and I know you, because Martin, and I know you, it's my job to sing your praise, because you've done an awful lot of work on. We have revised the whole CBD layout so that it replicates exactly what Core will want. So it is as easy, and it is very easy for members to fill out. So I would advocate that you go there and fill it out. As I said, we have a lot of resources, but it's really, you, the member, has more power than I think you realise, and I would advise you just to use that. It's like everything else. If we have one or two easy wins, what we want is, for instance, proper payment for an eye examination for a medical card. That's a no-brainer. We want the Sligo scheme to be rolled out. We want the state to have a scheme for children's eye care. I mean, it's as simple as that, and getting that message out. And I know some people don't like dealing with younger children, but other members do, and let them pick that up and do that. We know that we're going to have a long-term problem with an aging population, so there's going to be scope there, and maybe it is a requirement that we'll need to be retrained into more of the geriatric type care that's needed. As I said, I think members really have stood up, put on the green jersey, and stood up during the recent COVID crisis. I mean, the amount of feedback that I've got from even people, public members, phoning up saying thanking, because I mean, the frontline workers can't operate without their glasses. The ambulance driver who wears can't drive. The surgeon who wears contact lenses. We are needed.
And the guy who comes in and who's been sitting at home, who's slowly been worrying at home that one eye is going blurry. He's scared to go to the hospital to get that dilated examination, or he's OCT, or when we're getting the hospital ringing up practice and saying, listen, any chance you can do a scan because we don't have a technician because they're off doing swabbing.
Yeah.
These are the kind of stories that we're getting back from members about their experiences on the front line during this whole time.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the problems we've always had as well is worth noting. Like, we're registered by CORU, and we are a member of the Health Social Care Professions Association. But up until recently, we were the only profession regulated by CORU that weren't employed directly in the health service, because practice owners were on contract rates. It's only now and it's only a handful still of members who are being employed. But it's great to see that optometrists are being employed directly in the hospital sector. And I think when we have more of that, we'll get more recognition. As I said, we mentioned earlier about for instance, the Sligo cataract scheme. That's in the program for government. So that has to be done. So I know that under John's regime, that's one of the things he'll be looking at, will be, the national rollout of the Sligo scheme. It's no point, having constantly doing, we'll do a test case here or roll out a test case there or whatever. That's not going to work. You need, it's not, it'll be cheaper in the long run to do it. One of the things we're looking for is the amount of money that is spent on the National Treatment Purchase Fund on cross-border initiatives. When it should be done there's money gone out of the system that could be reinvested here, long-term reinvestment here. And that's the point we're making to a lot of our politicians. I know that under John's scheme too, one of the things we'll be looking at, obviously the PQEs are gone. So we're looking for a route for the fellowship, and how now when we get new graduates out, and how we'll award the fellowship to them, because it is an important designation and people do value it. And I know that it's of concern of people. So the one we use, I think we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a lot more communication like this. And one of the things I know that John would like to do is to maybe on a quarterly basis have a regular webinar and get things out, because sometimes it's easier to engage like this and have feedback like this. And so we hopefully will have on a quarterly basis more membership, more of this. We had started the regional meetings, which were going down well, and I know which our sponsors love. And I have to say a big word to our sponsors who are all behind us now, because really, members, we can't operate without them. It's as simple as that. They do support us. And the other group of people I want to thank is there are those practice owners who pay their levy. I know it's a small amount, but it all adds up. And the more practice owners who pay it, the more money goes in, and that helps us to lobby and really does support the organisation. And I've said, financially, we're in a good place, but going forward, it is your organisation. It has to be there, because we're going to be competing against, let's face it, against other professions. There's a finite sum of money there, and we need to make our voice heard. And for that, you have to spend money. And so there'll be more need for more lobbying and more PR and more advertising on a national basis to promote the profession of optometry.
Yeah, and two things there you mentioned. One about CPD. CORU have been very, very clear that they want their template used, and if you send in a portfolio that's not according to their template, they will reject it. And as a test, I sent in a copy of a portfolio I prepared myself using the AOI website, and had that confirmed by the CPD team at CORU that they are happy with that. So if you submit your portfolio using the AOI template, it will be acceptable. If you try and do one yourself, unless you use the exact layout and columns, they won't accept it. So that's just a really, really important point. The work that was done behind the scenes to make sure that was compliant, and CORU have put that in writing, that the AOI template from the website they are happy with. We have that in writing.
And it's important to reissue that.
Yeah, and another one, so just in terms of a combination of CPD and the kind of finance side. The association does secretariat work for the European Academy of Optometry and Optics. It's only a small fee that comes into the association every year, but it's a useful revenue stream, and we would definitely kind of encourage members to engage with the European Academy. But a big thing that will be happening in 2022 is the Academy and European Council coming to Dublin, and hopefully by that stage we'll be back to having live action meetings.
Live action.
And that's going to be quite a big event, and there could be anything between kind of 500 and 600 optometrists from across Europe, And I suppose we'd be saying to people now, May 2022, keep the month free to come to Dublin.
Yeah, we would be looking at it, and we may be looking at maybe our walking in, if not our own annual conference AGM there, or definitely having the study day back around then. And that's the other thing I think we should point out to people, that all of the wonderful CBD lectures that we've had done recently are up there. They're out there. We did this obviously, and largely driven by you and your education committee. So we've done this to help. I mean, because we don't know, we will have a study day next year, but there's more than enough work there for you. Our sponsors regularly have education programs. I know that Pia Capamics have one coming up very shortly. I mean, I have to say, without them, Topcon, Scope, Esler, Alcon, OptiWealth, we would be lost. So please do support them. But it's an easy way to make up CPD. Even meeting your rep, reading about their new products, etc. That's all easy CPD. One thing I do want to have, now I have this opportunity, I do wish to make sure that everybody, you keep an eye on your GDPR, please, and make sure that that's still kept up to date. You're coming near the year end. I don't know if you're doing calendar year or whatever. Now's a good time to clear out your records, make sure that you're compliant, GDPR compliant. That if you have a policy of keeping records for 7 or 8 years, do the call now, and do work like that, and make sure that all your patients have signed and are aware of where they can get a copy of your data retention and policies, etc. So just take the time always to do that. We did spend a lot of time and money in May of 2017 when it was being launched. So please go back. It's good for you to refresher on that as well. And again, doing a refresher on it, again, it's extra CPD for you. But it is one of the queries we get here a lot. One of the other things I might say is that I know that people always go on about insurance. Well, we have the gold plate professional indemnity insurance. Now, it went up slightly this year, but not near as much as other professions. Most PII went up between 20 and 25%. Biggest problem we have is the lack of players in the market, the lack of competition. Single biggest thing. Plus, we've had a large claim against us, and there was a claim of over 230,000 was settlement in one case, and that's a full year's premium. Yeah. And so that's what these guys, insurers, are in to make money. Let's face it. But when you weigh, your whole first year is gone on 230,000, you can understand. So we fought hard to keep it. One of the things we love about ours is that we don't outsource it to a UK centre or to a UK call centre. If anybody has any queries or any problems, you pick up the phone and you're talking to Terry Duffy or Ray Fogarty. You're picking up their work for Gleason Insurance here. You pick up the phone to them and you've got them at the end of the phone, and they will talk you through the whole process, and everything's done here. Yeah. Yes, you could get cheaper, less quality, but it wouldn't be as good as what we have. And for the fee, it's just not worth it, peace of mind. The other thing is we have members who are retiring, and that you've rolled off cover. You're covered now for 2 years after you retire. So it's a great policy, and it's well worth it. And
that also applies for members some of our younger members, if they move to the UK, and if there's a claim in the period when they're in the UK for work that they've done in Ireland previously, if they're on lots of UK insurance policies, that will only cover them for work done in the UK. That will only cover them for work done in the practice where they're working. Whereas the AOI policy will cover you as a named individual for work you've done in the previous period. And in the period of runoff, no matter where you are or when the claim was, if it's in the kind of covered by the statutes of limitations, the roll-off cover covers you. So that gives serious peace of mind to anybody who is moving or retiring. And eventually at some stage, we're all going to move or retire at some stage. Yeah. One or the other, or in many cases both. And that's right. one of the big advantages.
No, that's it. You're so right. But it's peace of mind. ultimately that's what you want. One less thing to worry. And it really is not that expensive still in comparison to others, as I said, and it is gold standard policy. And again, that's because that's what we every year go out and we look for new bids. And as I say, the council reviewed them, and that's the recommendation we put them forward. And remember, the great thing about the council is it's not me or anybody else here doing it. You're doing it, it's fellow members doing it. And so it's for our collective good. It's very, very cooperative and very collegiate approach that we take.
And so speaking of council, Patricia's just finished her 2 terms as president. John is about to start his term as president, or just started in the last week or 10 days. So a quick word for Patricia Dunphy and for John Weldon.
Well, as I said, Patricia, John, the executive council, but Patricia especially, well, what a year to be a president. I mean, all the turmoil we've had this year, the amount of Zoom meetings we've had to do. I mean, in fairness to Patricia, traveling here and there so you can get up good broadband, just to be involved. I mean, as you said, it's been a very, 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 very turbulent year. And, all credit to her. I mean, fantastic president. And working with a fantastic team. The council's been excellent. And you've got to, it is a very, very team approach, but all teams have a captain. And we had a fantastic captain. Captain Marvel, I mean, that's exactly who it is. And she's been brilliant. And for me, like I'm being very, very fortunate that the presidents I work for, Martin Crowe, Trina, and they've all been excellent. I mean, Patricia, it's just the same. And I'm really looking forward to working with John. I mean, John's very, very committed council member. And I think what John's going to bring a passion. I know, has been very interested in the whole education side of things. And one of the things we want to do is more engagement with the students. And so that'll be a major thing. As I said earlier, now John is one of the things we will be doing is pushing to get the Sligo cataract scheme rolled out on a national basis. But we're also going to be pushing out one of the things for a new contract. Now is the time to be doing this, I think, because I think we have been the GP contract is finished, as we know that.
I think everybody's heard of the GP contract at this stage.
So it's gone. I think what will happen then, you'll probably find, is that the dentists, as you know, are there'll be an agreement made with them regarding the medical card scheme or the PCRS scheme.
Yeah.
And then they'll get around to us. Now, we're fortunate that once the agreement's done with them, they can't really come around and give us something that hasn't been given to other professions. And that's how it is. I mean, they'll be making life easy for themselves. So, and that's what it is. And we're fortunate that, as I said, we work very closely with the other professions that's regulated by CURA. But we also have a very, very good intimate relationship with the IDA, the Irish Dental Association, and the Irish Pharmaceutical Union, IPU. And we got on very, very well with them. In fact, we talked to them last year, like for instance, with the IPU, maybe about doing a course for prescribing and doing something in conjunction with them. And that's something I think, and John was involved with that meeting, as were you, Martin. But also we know that the PCRS scheme, ourselves and the dentists share that and share the same platform. So whatever happens there tends to have a knock-on effect with us. So again, we're very fortunate that they are, I mean, one of our bigger organizations, but I'm not ashamed to be able to ride on their coattails. And so, I mean, let them, if it's possible, them to do some of the heavy lifting, so be it. I'm not proud. I'll take help from any source whatsoever. So I think, and I think one of the big things we have is that, as people know, we have a very good professional services committee chaired by Fiona. We have an excellent education committee, obviously chaired by yourself, honestly. We have a communications committee, which is chaired by Barry Lawler. And I think one of the things we will be doing, as I said, is doing more on the communication side. And that's something we want to push this year. We've a lot of stuff we've done. You wouldn't believe, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I mean, the amount of calls we get here, they range from, look, I have a problem with somebody in the local health office, or I've been called up for jury duty, can I get out? The answer is yes, you can on the latter, because you're a health service professional. But get in contact with us, and it very often involves us getting involved with the local court services, pointing out the fact. See, again, we're not named on the list. They have named nurses and medical professions, but not us. But once we point out that we are a healthcare professions, they generally give exception to members. So if you have to be excused from jury duty, not that I'm advocating it in any way, of course, if you have to be, we can help you get out. But little things that too, we got a problem with a member of the public coming in. We had a lot of problems during the year with people, anti-maskers. People coming in refusing to wear masks, and it was, get a lot of stuff like that. And very often, people invariably, to phone up the office, we can't really give them a lot of guidance. Like when it comes to the technical stuff, Linda's brilliant. She does that, and we refer everybody to Lynn from that. But I think in a lot of cases, people phone up, we're used as a sounding board. People know what they want, but and we're here to hear, and that's what our job is, to listen. And so please, we always say, get in contact. We may not always be able to give you the answer, but we'll always listen. We'll always try, and we'll always try and get back to you. I mean, one of the things we do try is to get back to everybody on every request that they put in. It's going to be a little bit harder next year when Mary's off maternity leave, but we'll overcome that obstacle. And obviously, publicly, I'd like to thank her and wish her all the very best. And we're all excited for her, needless to say.
I suppose before we go, we should as well thank all the council members.
Most definitely. We've been very, very fortunate, the calibre of member we've had. In particular, I'd like to thank Ciara McHugh, Creasy O'Connor and Orla Burke, who were served on the council and who retired. And we're very fortunate that we're able to get Sinead Ryan, Tanya Constable and Fiona Cleary as new members. And it's so important that we get new members joining, new blood, and it is important that there is a certain amount of turnover on the council, because it is important to get new ideas and new impetus. I'd also like to thank those other council members, Nikki Tehan, Mary McMahon, Mary O'Loughlin, Martin Crowe, Dermot Pritchard, who's our honorary treasurer, Fiona Kavanagh, as I said, who's chair of the Professional Services Committee, Barry Lawler, who's our honorary secretary and chair of the Communications Committee, yourself, chair of the Education Committee, Declan Habberton, Patricia, obviously, our fantastic ex-president now at this stage, John Weldon, our new president, and I should mention Del McCann, who's now who was elected vice president. He was nominated by John as our new vice president. So, we'd be nothing without them, and I personally rely on their support. So, thank you all very, very much.
I suppose, and that is the final word from the podcast. Thanks for everybody who's listened all the way to the end. Thanks to the sponsors, and in particular Topcon, who are our primary platinum sponsor, and all of the sponsors you can see on the board behind myself and Sean. So thanks a million, and we'll hope to talk to you again very, very soon, and hopefully to see you soon. Watch the lectures online. You can log on via the members area, and watch out for some live sessions from the association in the next few weeks. Thanks a million, guys, and goodbye.